Om Vakratunda Mahakaya Suryakoti Samaprabha Nirvignam Kuru Me Deva Sarvakaryeshu Sarvada Saraswati Namastubhyam Varade Kamarupini Vidyarambham Karishyami Siddhir Bhavatu Me Sada Gurur Brahma Gurur Vishnu Gurur Devo Maheshwaraha Gurudeva Param Brahma Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Hari Om and good evening from London. This past Saturday, we organized a wonderful one-day Devi retreat here in London, Ontario. We had around 60 Devis who came from all over, and we studied Ishavasya Upanishad. We studied a few shlokas, mantras from this Upanishad. And the first mantra begins with Ishavasyam idagam sarvam, which means, sarva means all, or that. Idagam means this. So that and this, Ishavasyam, in this lives Isha, in other words, Bhagwan or Brahman. And an even better meaning than that is that and this is clothed by Bhagwan. And why we took up this mantra, why we took up this Upanishad, is because the theme of the retreat was being the bigger person. Now, if Bhagwan is clothing you and clothing me, is there a need to be the bigger person? We're both one, no? Let me put it differently. If you think of the last time you were at a beach or a lake or a river, you see waves are born, waves grow, waves shrink, waves die, and you think there's so much birth, there's so much death, until you have the knowledge that this is all water. That water is born, water grows, water shrinks, water dies, but really, water just is. So the man, the woman, the person you like, the person you dislike, etc., 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 all of this change is there until you have the knowledge that Bhagwan clothes all of these humans, these animals, these plants, these stones. Bhagwan is these humans, these animals, these plants, these stones. There's no need to even be the bigger person. There's just Advaita. Prince Arjuna, without this knowledge, is drowning in samsara. And samsara is always compared to an endless ocean. Prince Arjuna, with this knowledge, samsara turns into sagara. Sagara here means Jnana Guna Sagara, correct? We chant with Hanuman Chalisa. That he becomes endless with his knowledge, endless with his virtues. The endlessness shows the bhagya, the divinity. So samsara and sagara literally can mean the same. But with knowledge, one drowns you. Without knowledge, one drowns you. With knowledge, you become infinite. In Ishavasya Upanishad, Bhagavan or the Rishi shares, all is in you. And here at a relative level, what we're trying to share is all of the dukkha and sukha in our lives is because of us. And the extension of this is all of creation is because of us. That the Jagadishvara, the Jagat, and the Jiva are only one. There's Advaita or bust. There's infinity and there's infinity. There's no bigger numbers that come close to infinity. There's only infinity. There's not infinity and finitude. This is important because last week we studied the gunas. And the gunas are the relative identity of us. They're not the absolute identity of us. So why the gunas? How many of you wear on a regular basis a fitness measuring device, like a Fitbit or an iPhone or something like that? Nobody here. Okay, only a few people. So, why do you wear a fitness measuring device? It's so you are aware of how fit you are or how fit you're not. So someone shared here that they're fit. See, they don't wear that measuring device because they don't want to know how unfit they are, how few steps they take in a day. But this creates that awareness. Like I wear a Fitbit. It shows me, today you took 2,500 steps or 12,500 steps. And if it's 2,500, then I need to keep walking. And if it's 12,500, enjoy. Keep eating. Not keep exercising, keep eating. You deserve this. You see, the gunas have the same principle. Bhagavan is the author of the gunas. This is a way for people to know their subconscious, which we call the antakarana. Mind, memory, intellect, ego. To know their unconscious, which we call the vasanas or the blueprint. When you know this, you can develop. But if you don't know this, it's hard to develop. And Bhagavan has created this, which means this is universal. It is not just to Prince Arjuna. It's not just to those who live in Bharat. Now you study any society. Aren't there thinkers, administrators, mobilizers, workers? You take a basketball team. You have more of the thinking player. Maybe that's a coach. Then you have the leader. He or she may not be the best player, but they lead. You have the mobilizer, the one who always passes. Then you have the worker, the one who gets the rebounds. Correct? And if you take any part of that away, the team becomes weaker. The guna manifests as a karma. And karma here we can interpret as our profession. Profession. Today I was chatting with someone about why I turned to the religious path. And our joking dialogue was because the person I loved didn't love me. And I'm a bichara. But that's not the case. I returned from the Vedanta course and returned to commercial real estate. Buying properties, selling properties, building properties, fixing properties. And I was doing that 95% of my time and teaching a few classes here and there, 5%. But as more opportunities for teaching came, I realized that the guna that I have, which is of an introvert nature, it's more conducive for me to learn through seva than it is through commercial real estate. But I still do commercial real estate as a seva to my mother and father. So my point here is that your guna tends to manifest as your karma or profession, but your profession and karma is not definitively indicative of your guna. And what has happened is people have taken that as the fundamental. That my father was like this, so I'm going to be like this too. My mother did this, so I'm going to do this too. And the environment may be conducive to that. If your family builds homes, then you taking over that company is possible, but it's not fundamental that you will also have such a personality. As I was thinking about this, I was thinking about that Bollywood song. You know that Bollywood song, Papa kehte, bada naam karega, right? And then they say koi engineer or something. They specify that, right? That he's going to become an engineer. But what if he's not going to become an engineer? Just because his father says you're going to become an engineer, that doesn't mean you're going to become an engineer. So guna can manifest as karma, but it's not necessary. The guna is the fundamental, the karma is functional. We left last week with a question about how do we interact with the past, present, future when it comes to this? Guna karma vibhagashaha, this color classification. So here are 3 points I would like for you to remember. Number 1, Bhagavan instructed us in the guna karma vibhagashaha. The ego interpreted the guna karma vibhagashaha. So Bhagavan's instruction was this way, but the ego interpreted this in their own way. And all of the negativity, all of the harm that's come from this classification is not the instruction of Bhagavan, it is the interpretation of people. And to give you a relative example of that, Gautam Buddha, his message is, there is nothing higher. There is nothing higher. And what did some people interpret this as? Nothing is the higher. Nothing is the higher. What is the highest form of enlightenment? Nothingness. Kshunya vadis, people who believe that zero is the highest. So Gautam Buddha said this, and I don't want to use the word disciples, but egos interpreted it this way, and that's a completely different message. There is nothing higher. We say that too, para. But to interpret it that nothing is the highest, see how much loss can come with that. We've taken the means and made it the ends. Number 1. Number 2, this interpretation has created higher and lower. The ego's interpretation has created higher and lower. You know which group of people drove the guna karma vibhagashaha, the varnas? The brahmanas. The rich get richer and the poor get poorer. Doesn't that happen now? The good schools become better and the poor schools become worse. It is people who interpret this to put themselves higher that want to maintain that higher or go higher by bullying people to become lower and lower. If you think, Bhagavan has said that there's 4 varnas, but now we've created more, like the untouchables, correct? That's not in Srimad Bhagavad Gita. Shudra is there. Shudra and untouchable are not synonyms for each other. But how do you make yourself even higher? Push people down even lower. And in our more relative history, isn't that what the British did? Didn't they capitalize that they're even higher than the Brahmanas, right? We run the Brahmanas. And they capitalized on this division rather than classification, and they leveraged that. Because we didn't know. There's no education. And now the third point. What are we supposed to do? So I talked about the origin, I talked about the history. Now I will talk to you about what we're supposed to do, the present. You have to practice Bhagavan's instruction of the guna karma vibhagashaha. You have to practice this. And as you practice this, you also have to create policy around the correct practice. So you practice, you create systems so that other people also practice this. That policy could be at a committee level, that policy can be at a community level. You can do this in politics. Such as, when you discuss the Guna Karma Vibhagasha, do discuss this. Invite everyone for your birthday and bring up this subject. For your birthday, you want to discuss Guna Karma Vibhagasha. We don't need presents, we only need satsang. And as you discuss this, you must deflect this misinterpretation from Bhagwan to the ego and the ego of people. Deflect this from Bhagwan, deflect this from Sanatana Dharma, because it's not attributed to Bhagwan or Sanatana Dharma. See, people point that this is what Sanatana Dharma is. There's whole shows that talk about this. What can we do? No, this is not true. This is because of the Brahmanas. This is because of the British. It's not because of Sanatana Dharma. It's not because of Srimad Bhagavad Gita. In time, this will be corrected. I shared last week that sometimes we have to let the forest burn down. This will be corrected. Okay? And all of you are avatars of that. You're studying, you're sharing. Keep it up. Bhagwan is proud of all of you. Not would be. He is proud of all of you. We now move on to section 4.6. One of the scariest parts of driving on a highway is... Scariest parts of driving on the highway? Trucks, yes. When you're driving beside a truck, especially in the winter or a lot of rain, it's frightening, yes? And I always feel for those truck drivers when they have to park, when they have to reverse. How do they reverse those trucks? I find it difficult to reverse anything bigger than a Civic. Like when I have to drive someone's Sienna or Odyssey, that's difficult. But they reverse trucks. And so they get paid more than people who drive cars, correct? Then if you think of someone who steers a cruise ship, same person, but now they have to steer a cruise ship, that's much more complex, much more is involved. There's 3,000 people and 50,000 tons and so on. Then if you extrapolate this more to a rocket ship, where you're now playing with different elements, whether it's heat or a vacuum and so on. Same person, but how much more demanding that would be. Now you're thinking, okay, now when are you going to bring it to us? Okay, what is the point of these stories that you're telling us? All of us have an intellect. How you use your intellect is the gauge for your greatness. Someone who drives a truck or a cruise ship or a rocket ship, same person, but what their vehicle is shows their greatness. They get paid more. What are you doing with your intellect? And if you're using your intellect to day trade, it's okay. But if you're using your intellect to know what is reality, that is your greatness. Bhagwan shares in this portion of Srimad Bhagavad Gita, he gets into the complexity of action, of karma. And he says, at a surface level, action is movement. So I'm moving my arm, so I'm acting. You're breathing, so you're acting. Bhagwan says, action at this interpretation is endless. Even while we're sleeping, we're breathing. Our heart is pumping. That is all action. For the person who's using their intellect, at a surface level. But if you start to become more of a thinker, you're using your intellect at a deeper level, action is not determined by movement. Action is determined by doership. Doership is the determinant of whether you're acting or not acting. It is not movement. Movement is on the surface. It is doership. Kartritva. Elaborating on this. Swami Chinmaya says, the animal man, the animal human, has doership inside and has no movement outside. Okay, the animal man, a lot of doership inside and laziness outside, or tamas. That person is a animal man. We call that inactivity. The man-human, or the man-man, has doership inside and movement outside. That is called activity. So, activity inside, activity outside. That is action. But for the God-man, for the God-human, there is no doership inside and there is movement outside. We call that unaction. So inside it is always na eva kinchit karomi iti. That I am doing nothing. I am doing nothing. I am doing nothing. That I is just language. This is called unaction. Which is the most difficult to practice? Inaction, action, or unaction? Unaction, no? Even to say, I am understanding this, that's still doership, correct? If you feel that. It is unaction that is the greatest. To know that Bhagwan's hand is on your head, like the Gurudwara. That this is all Bhagwan's grace. For all of you who read today's Rad about God's grace and knowing God's grace, that would be a reference point for you to understand someone who has doership and someone who akartritva, that I'm not the doer. There are many examples of our icons like this. Show me Bhagwan Shiva's eyes. Show me with your eyes. Lean close to your camera and show me Bhagwan Shiva's eyes. Some of you are permanently like that. Your eyes are half open, half closed. Bhagwan Shiva's eyes are half closed and half open. Half closed is that he's immersed in his nature. So that's the no doership, but half open is that there's activity outside. What is, people love Bhagwan Shiva, but people love Bhagwan Vishnu more. And I'll tell you why. Why do they love Bhagwan Vishnu more? What's Bhagwan Vishnu's, our favorite pose of Bhagwan Vishnu? Yoga Nidra, right? And now we have full camps on Yoga Nidra. You know what that means? Bhagwan is sleeping in the sense that he is in tune with his nature, but he's not sleeping either. The Nidra part is he knows his nature. The yoga part is that there's movement. Even our Puja Swami Chinmaya, or our whole Guru Shishya Parampara. How many of you have met Acharya Vivek? Okay. She was sharing that Gurudev was such a rishi that he was in Brahman and a small fraction of who he was engaging in the world. Now think about that. Even a drop of infinity is infinity. Amrita Bindu Upanishad, correct? Even a drop of infinity is still infinity. That a drop we got to see, but that drop will have infinite potential. That's the importance of the Guru Shishya Parampara. So, our icons are teaching us about unactivity, not activity. Okay? And I'm going to make this even more tactile. How do you know you're shifting from activity to unactivity? And I don't think anyone's involved in inactivity till 9-10. But how to get to unactivity? You should grow your capacity for dharma. See, greater people can engage in more responsibilities and still be balanced. I observe in some cities, some communities, that once responsibility comes to someone, they start to panic. And they escape, or their health becomes poor because they don't have that capacity for dharma. That's how you know if you're shifting to unactivity, is that just like lung capacity grows, you can just chant Om longer. So in the same way, you are becoming more like a god when you can do more dharma and still be balanced. A catalyst to doing this is to identify with the self or the spirit and disidentify with matter. When you identify with the spirit, that is the I am not the doer. And disidentifying from the matter doesn't mean the matter stops. The matter goes on, the movement goes on. So no doership inside, there is movement outside. It's a matter of what you're identifying with. But if you identify with matter, that means you're not identifying with the spirit. We will think, I am doing, and there's movement outside. It's only karma. Karma breeds karma. There is bandha then. But for someone who doesn't have that kartritva, they're not acting, so they don't create results. There is no bandha there. Now, for all of those people who are thinking along the lines of tattva bodha, if there's an action, there has to be a reaction. Who's acting in that case? For someone who's enlightened, it is the multiverse that is acting. That multiverse is acting through that divine personality. And the reactions that come, the positive reactions go to the disciples. And the negative reactions go to the haters. To the lovers and the haters. So it's the multiverse. So there's no flaw here. There's no porous, is that the right word? Where there's holes in this teaching. It's all tight. These results that you and I experience, I'm going to tell you some insights into these results, okay? How to be more akartritva, less doership. For someone who enjoys the action, when the action is not being done, they're happy. When they're acting, they're happy. And when the action finishes, they're happy. So they don't need to act. For someone who is more humble, more akartritva, before action they're happy, during action they're happy, and after action they're also happy. They don't need to act. Nothing to gain, nothing to lose. For the ordinary person, when they engage in action, there are results, but those results, they're external results. You know, it's like something that tastes good, or it's comfortable. You know, you lie down in bed and you feel it's so comforting and you sleep well. You know, it's external, it's shallow, it's short-lived. That's for someone ordinary. But for the unwise person, they engage in actions for the results, and they are not happy during the action, and they're not happy with external results. They want internal results, like name, fame, recognition. Or you just keep going. It's at that position level, not so much about possession or pleasure. It's about position. They have a need to act. That's their bandha. That if they're not acting, they're not getting recognition, correct? So keep on acting for recognition. See how bound we get? And if you play this game, this unwise game of looking for internal results like position, what Swami Tejmayananda so lovingly has shared, he brings up irsha. What does irsha mean? Jealousy. And how tactfully he says who we're jealous of. Two factors. Who are we jealous of? Someone we know, and someone who has a little bit more than us. So someone we know and their spouse is a little bit more attractive than our spouse. Someone whose child goes to a little bit of a better school. You know, I'm talking at a position level. It's not about their car. It's not about what they ate for dinner. It's about that position. And why that creates jealousy is because you can relate to that. You can't relate to the person. You're not jealous of them. Right? Are you all jealous of Swami Tejamayananda? Because he knows more than you. Correct? But you may be jealous of the student next to you, correct? If I make up a name, this Deepak, he studied well in the last questionnaire. Then you're all thinking, well, let's quickly scroll to see who this Deepak is. And now, every class, what do? You check for Deepak first. But I'm ahead of the game. There's no Deepak in our class, so I know. I know how to play this game. That's Irsha. Then we have Matsara. What does Matsara mean? Envy. And the two factors when it comes to envy is someone you don't know well and someone who has lots more than you. Someone you don't know well and someone who has lots more than you. So someone you can't relate to. And you want what they are, but you want what they are, but you don't try to pull them down. Okay, so Irsha and Matsara. And how did this all come about? I keep using the word game. The word that Swamiji uses is spardha. Spardha. Spardha means competition. And who creates competition? You do. Spardha is your own pardha. In Hindi, what does pardha mean? Veil or covering. Like Gorak Danda. Nusrat Fateh Ali Khan says, Bhagwan, you are your own pardha. You are Brahman and Maya. We compete. I keep telling our Chinmaya mission centers is that if other organizations and other institutions think that we're competing with them, we don't control them. We complement such organizations and institutions. Go, with this knowledge, go there. It's our own pardha. Oh, I have all of 4.7 to cover too, but I had lots to share for 4.6, so we'll finish here.